Hello, this is Dorothy Smith, a close to my heart independent consultant, and today I'm showing you Mistletoe Wishes, which is one of our kits from our new catalog, and this is to make 12 cards, 6 of 2 different designs, and these are our instructions that come with the kit, and very easy to understand. We get the background and texture paper, cardstock, 12 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cards and envelopes, and the cards are pre-scored, so it's always good to use your bone folder to get a nice sharp edge when you fold them. You get a package of gold glitter gems in large and small size, which are always pretty to put on, but you're going to embellish those at the very end after you finish making the cards. You also get a full stamp set that has hints on it, and a Christmas ornament and some Christmas greenery, except it won't be green. And I've gone ahead and cut out all the pieces, but I'm not going to make all 12 cards. I'm just going to make one of each design. So I'll put these away, and I've kind of sorted the pieces that go together. And I will go ahead and start with the red background card. And so all you have to do is follow the fairly simple instructions. So I use this close to my heart layout mat, which is wonderful for layout, but it also on the back side it has a spongy background, which is great for stamping. So I'm going to use the little spongy piece that comes with each of our stamp sets. This way you are for sure going to get a nice impression of your stamp without any missing pieces, which can happen easily. So the other things that do not come with the kit are the inks, and we're going to use the Candy Apple ink. And we're also going to use the archival black ink. So starting off with the Candy Apple, I went ahead and rubbed the stamp on my hand, and that kind of clears off some oil and debris that's on, just naturally comes on the stamps. So I always test out before I put my stamp on one of the real pieces. I test it out on a scrap piece to make sure I'm going to get a good impression. So one thing great about our clear stamps and clear blocks is you can see whether you've got enough ink on your stamp. So I can kind of look through and see, yep, I've got a good, it's inked up real well. And so there's my first stamping Christmas ornament. The next, that if you can look at the instructions, it has a little tiny banner going across the Christmas ornament in archival black. So the archival black is a permanent ink, and it's a very, very dark black. It does stain your stamps permanently, but that doesn't inhibit the stamps in any way from giving you a good stamping impression. But it gives you very dark black. So here I am not reading the instructions, and I'm putting the little sentiment directly onto the Christmas ornament. And instead of the letters being white, they're red. And I'm going, okay, what did I do? All right, I need to stamp it on the white. This is what happens when you don't read instructions, people. So stamp it on the white till you get a good impression. There we go. And now I'm going to fussy cut that little banner out, and I'll put it directly over the banner that I stamped, and you'll never be able to tell that I made my first boo-boo on my first go around. So the only thing about fussy cutting is getting they're not showing any white on instructions. They're just showing black. And so my cutting is such that I'm cutting and there's a little bit of a white edge on my banner. And so I am going to awkwardly try to ink up the banner with the stamp set. Now, it would probably be easier if I went and got my shin hand marker and just went ahead and did the edges with the shin hand marker. That would have been so much easier. So anyway, instead of doing that, I went ahead and put the black all around using the ink pad. So now I'm going to use my Tombow to go ahead and glue this down over the sentiment that should not have been directly on the ornament. So there you go. So everything's all better. And now I've got white lettering. So I'm cutting up the middle of the banner, up the center, to give myself an easy way of making a fairly even banner cut. I don't have a banner cutter, so this works just fine. You can pretty much eyeball where the center, of a piece of paper is. And I'm going to put the top piece on the banner, which is the little kind of holly background and texture paper, which is the opposite side of the red plaid. And then I've got to put my hanging piece, which is a little bow, and that gets done in the archival black. But I didn't plan out exactly where to put my ornament, so it's a little bit short. But then I realized that there's a little gold top of the ornament that needs to get put on, and they do this using the glitter, our new Ranger gold tinsel embossing powder. And so this is just like regular embossing powder, but there's actual, so I'm going to use the Versamark which is kind of a glue. So that's going to be the first. I stamp the little top. So the top of the ornament is getting stamped, and I'm placing it right there on the top of the ornament where it belongs. Top goes on the top. And then I had trouble with my cap, getting my cap off of the gold tinsel. See how there's all sorts of glitter in there to make it look like gold tinsel. So I just kind of put a bunch of that on where the glue is and set that aside so I don't blow it all away. And get my heating element that I got from Close to My Heart. It's a little heater blower, especially for doing this kind of embossing. And so it just heats up the I guess the little balls of color that makes up the embossing powder. I would suggest using a tweezer to hold your paper so you don't burn your fingers. And I don't think I got quite enough ink on my little top, so I'm going to add some more to it. And I pulled some of the glitter off, but that's okay. I'm just going to add another layer of glitter on top and see if I can't get a better amount. And there, that looks a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and put my blower on and heat up the gold top so that the color melts, and you can see it become shiny, and it actually changes a little bit of the color, so you can tell that it's melted. I mean, you can tell that it's finished. So now my little hanging bow fits just right, hanging from the top of the band going across the banner. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the Merry Moments sentiment on the black disc. And although it's said in the instructions to use a Cuttlebug disc, I went ahead and cut, I think they're 2.5-inch circles using the Cricut, because I could just cut all the discs I think it's 24 discs very quickly instead of using the Cuttlebug and doing them one at a time. So I put a bunch of the Versamark on the black disc, and now I'm going to add the Ranger Gold Tinsel embossing powder onto the sentiment. And you want to get off as much as you can of the, I think if you use your anti-static pocket little bag on the paper first, then you won't have extraneous embossing powder sticking to the paper. So that would be a better thing to do. I try to knock it off usually with flicking the paper with my finger, and here I am burning my fingers because holy moly, there's a lot of hot air coming out of that heater. So I don't know that you can really see that it's turning color, but it must have, so it all melted. And now I'm going to add some foam tape to the back to make the sentiment kind of jump up a little bit off of the banner. I decided instead of using the tape, I would get these discs. Now I bought the package of shaker discs and foam tape to help make the shaker windows. And because they give you so much extra foam tape, I've got all these circles that will last me a very long time, and they're perfect for, adding some dimension to anything you want to add some dimension to. So I have lots and lots of those circles. When I purchased, this is one of our new products, or the shaker windows. We also have a lot of sequins and glitter type things to go into the shakers. So they are so much fun to make. And I believe I made a video showing how to make the shaker windows so that they're not so awkward. So anyway, then I put the background on the card, and then I just put my Tombow adhesive onto the back of the banner. And there is my first card. And now I'm going to add the little gold gems in the large and small size, and they kind of show you, use the small here and the big there, and so everything, you don't have to do a whole lot of thinking. Everything, all the instructions and the design is all made for you with these kits, which is so nice. And I can sort of follow instructions, but I'm not great at designing things, and so I really appreciate getting the design so that when I make my homemade stuff, it looks great and it doesn't necessarily look, oh man, that was homemade for sure. No, these look like professional homemade. So I'm starting on my second card here, and this gets, you see the red background on this one is the opposite side of the holly, and those are our background and texture papers. Then we got the candy apple red cardstock and some white daisy cardstock. And I'm just going to put that on top of the red to make the white stand out. And then that will just go on top of the holly background. So the red really helps the little holly berries show up, and because they are definitely in the background. And now this sentiment is called Mistletoe Wishes, which is, of course, the name of the kit. And I like this font. It's a tall, thin font. I wish I was tall and thin. My next life. Okay, and so I got a good impression. And I'm just eyeballing this. I always keep kind of a tissue or something close by, because if you're when you ink up your block, you may get some ink on your block, and that can translate over onto your paper that you don't want to get inky. So this is the little, what is that called? Kind of a bow to goes under the Mistletoe Wishes. So just making sure that there's no extraneous ink once again. And it's just a little something to make the sentiment stand out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the black disc, and I actually got some tweezers so I wouldn't burn my fingers, and this is the only way to do the heat embossing. I mean, because I don't know how hot it gets, but it definitely hurts. So we're going to use the little cluster of leaves there, and I'm get my Versamark, put these other inks away, and get the Versamark and get it good and covered in the Versamark glue. You also want to use the pad so that you also need a very good impression, and you can see the leaves look darker. It's just because they're kind of wet with the glue. So I'm adding the embossing powder onto the Versamark impression, and I'm just trying to get off the excess embossing powder and glitter. And like I said, if I had used the anti-static pouch, it would have been a little bit cleaner. But, I mean, who's going to argue with a little bit too much sparkle? So here I am melting using my heat gun, and you can tell that as the gold changes color, it gets a little bit smoother looking, a little bit lighter looking, and it doesn't take very long to melt the embossing powder. So I'm going to add a little dimension using my extra foam pads from the shaker window set, and adding the dimension to a card or a scrapbook page always adds a little interest. So instead of having everything flat, always try to add dimension or layers. Like this is 3 layers on top of the white card. 1, 2, 3, actually 4, including the black disc. And they actually have a little cutout bow, but I decided I wanted a little bit more dimension. So I went to my stash and went ahead and pulled out some ribbons that I thought would look good. And I have a little red ribbon here. I also had a black ribbon that had a gold center, which also would have been good. I'm going to go ahead and add the gold gems onto the card, and it's one big one and a small one, 2 small ones, I believe. And the card is complete, and I'm happy. I do like the little bow as opposed to the paper bow, and so this is our Mistletoe card wishes for Christmas this year. And you could tell that it wasn't a very hard kit to make. It wasn't tons of pieces of paper to put together, and there you have it. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my blog at dotscrapbooking.com.